Wuthering Waves. It throws you into a post-apocalyptic world full of memory cubes, world-shattering events, and so much more that I kind of forgot about. You kind of forgot about. We all kind of forgot about, okay? We all try to pay attention. Doesn't always work out that way. So if you're wondering what actually happened, you're not alone. I actually played through all of WuWa on stream, and I really, really tried to pay attention, okay? Like, we actually had focus mode on. I did not react to chat, but ever. Okay, logging in. Sorry guys for yapping so much, but I just wanted to get it all out of us. Because, again, I want to know what's going on. And still, I ended up so lost. While researching, I rediscovered the amazing lore. And I was like, damn, this kind of slaps, actually. And yeah, I thought to myself, gotta share that in a somewhat comprehensive way. Don't know if I managed that, honestly, because gotta tell you guys, printing stuff is expensive. You know, we are in a recession. So the icons may be small, but just take it as me encouraging you to do something else on the side, I guess, you know? To sometimes just glance at this, but to, I don't know, play the game while you listen to this, cook, sleep, whatever else you want to do, honestly, not my business. So yeah, cutscenes are short. No, I wish they were. Cutscenes are long, life is short. Let's break this down. So, we begin with the world before the fall, as I call it. Our story happens on Solaris 3, not Earth, okay? We are not on Earth, we are on Solaris 3. Yes. Back then, humanity was thriving with advanced tech, you know, it was utopia, it was beautiful. But then, as it always does, a catastrophe happened, known as the Great Lament. Everything was bad afterwards, okay? It happened millennia ago, it was maybe man-made, we're not sure, and it feeds on human emotion. This was like, to destroy all of this, the Great Lament happened. Nowadays, in the current times, there's still laments happening, but that was like, the first one was known as the Great Lament. It led to the appearance of tested discords, or TDs, which I think is very hilarious, because TDs! Yeah, the mobs we fight. Creatures formed by resonance. There's different classifications that you could see here a little bit, but I think it's too far away, so just let me, say them out loud. It's common, elite, overlord, and calamity. And that's kind of the, there's these very easy tested discords you can just defeat like that. Then there's the weekly bosses, whatever. They fall into their pyramid. And obviously above all of that is threnodian, okay? This is the threnodian of war, Orthorax.
Overthrax.
They love their crazy names, and they are the big baddies, okay? They are world-shattering. They will kill you. They will kill everything. They will genocide everything. Just so you know. Also, what's important, I think, is that after death, a human can also turn into a TD. Kind of cringe. Honestly, also kind of goated. Can't decide. After the Great Lament happened, everything turned into frequencies. And humans can resonate with that frequency, making them a resonator. Huh? The characters we can pull, right? I hope you can see that. Manifests itself as like this frequency shown on the skin. We all know the little cutesy little marks, they are there. And they kind of give magical abilities, whatever. Yeah, the society collapsed after the Great Lament, and the survivors reorganized into different factions or cities or nations, kind of everything. We've kind of met a few of the factions, but not a lot, especially since we're only going over 1.0 in this video. Just imagine being in that world and not being a resonator. I think I might just do something irreversible. We're the first resonator, which, kind of crazy, but also means we are old. Very, very old. Certified hag, one might say. They have been fighting the Lament all this time. We're actually also kind of crazy, yoked out, one might say, since we're also actually what is known as an arbiter. We don't know exactly what that is, but it seems to be almost like a divine being. So that's cool, that's chill. We were the ones to establish the city of Jinshi, seen right here, with our friend slash pet Jue, seen right here, this goated dragon. Jinzhou is a city in the nation of Huanglong. It is one of the 6 cities. We have only seen Jinzhou so far, which is kind of crazy to think about, that there's so much more to Huanglong, because this is already a pretty big map. And yeah, Jue is what's known as a sentinel. Sentinels are kind of the antithesis to the TDs, as in they're there to kind of guide and protect humanity. And in this universe, every city, at least in Huanglong, has its own sentinel. And Jue is Jinzhou's, since we established that city together. Crazy. At some point in our journey, we discovered, whatever, this island made out of tacitite, which is kind of, you know, these black spies that come out of a tacit field, which is where the tacit discord spawn. This is where you get your echoes from, where you can farm your echoes, right? So we discovered this island, ooh, and on that island was this thing, which is known as the Tethys system. It is an ancient machine, we don't know where it's from, but it can predict when the next lament is going to happen, which kind of useful. It might prevent mass death. That's great. After finding all of that, Rover decided, hey, let's stay here, let's create a base on this island and create a secret organization whose purpose it is to, you know, fight the lament as well, called the Black Shores. You know, very creative. Wow, Rover, you really outdid yourself that time. The Tethys system has a core which requires strong emotion to function, kind of like, you know, element. The thing is, that core was getting unstable. It was, you know, the bitch was malfunctioning. Yikes. Rover was just like, oh, let's just use element as a replacement core. And you might be shocked to hear this. That turned out to be unstable as well. Color me shocked. Color me shooketh. Yeah. So now we got a super unstable Tethys core or Tethys system. What do? We create the Shorekeeper to kind of replace that core. Since the Tethys system was built on emotion as well, she needed to feel emotions too. So we just kind of were like, come, hop in, girly. And we decided to go on this great journey with her to learn emotions. Apparently we were at it for like millennia. And, you know, color me shocked, color me surprised. After that, we were kind of unwilling to sacrifice her. Yeah, because we would just kind of have to push her into this bitch to make all of that work. And so Rover was like, no, there's gotta be another way. And decided to kind of do their thing. In my humble opinion, I think the Tethys system just might be fucked. Like, come on, Rover, just accept defeat at some point. Nothing seems to be working, but oh well. Now we're kind of gonna jump into the current day, which is 20 years later from the point where Rover was like, oh, I'm gonna head out and find a replacement for the Shorekeeper, for the Tethys core, because nobody can ever replace her. This is where our game starts, for real. It opens up with this beautiful cutscene of this divine being pushing something into us, doing something to our tacit mark. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. We don't really know what they did. It's kind of speculated that they put Abby into us, which more on Abby later. I will explain who that is. I completely forgot about this figure, honestly. So here's your reminder. She exists. We then wake up in this cool upside-down sea, which is called the Etheric Sea. I'm just gonna explain that just in case it ever gets relevant again. It hasn't so far, but still. It emerges when a tacit field is about to emerge. Tacit fields, again, are the things you get your echoes from. Okay? We meet our first 2 characters, Jiyan and Xixia. Jiyan, Xixia. They are small on the board because, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, not that relevant. But what they are there, you know? They care for us. We love them still. You don't need to be relevant to be loved. We then do the whole spiel of like, what? Who are you? I don't know. I've got memory loss. And then, you know, they decide to bring us to Jinzhou, the city where they're from. But, you know, they don't know, and we don't know. We have memory loss. We for real have memory loss. You know, that's a real thing. They are from there, so they were like, okay, let's go there. Our arrival was actually highly anticipated, even if we don't quite know that yet. You know, we are obviously a very powerful figure, and obviously people kind of want to make use of that. Just keep that in mind. On our way, we come upon the statue of Joey again, and we kind of get this flashback. But that's because we created the city of Jinshi together. So if you're wondering why that was, that's why. Further down the road, we meet Baija, who is sadly in the irrelevant baddies corner right here. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. But she doesn't really do a lot. And that's fine. I still love her, okay? She's a useless healer. That's also fine. I still love her. I will never stop loving her. We kind of encounter the Crownless, and we defeat them. And then we absorb the Crownless's echo, which is whenever you kill a TD, they may leave an echo behind. We absorb that, but we don't even have a Pangu terminal. So we just kind of absorb that into our body, which, you know, it's for Abby to munch on, but we don't know that yet in the story. But yeah, it gets straight up eaten by this beast. Honestly, its greed sickens me. You know, the girlies are shocked, flabbergasted, one might say, since the only person recorded in history able to do that was this celestial being. There's a reason why we're in the center of this board. We are cracked. They took on a human form, that celestial being, and created the Pangu terminal. This is the screen, our echo screen, you know, where you put on the echoes, so that normal people might also catch our echoes and use them to enhance their skill. That celestial being was super helpful after the Great Lament happened, since they apparently just kind of used the first echo to rebuild the world, establish Huanglong, and sort out the laws. Just chill stuff. We proceed to the city hall, where we're supposed to meet the magistrate and resonator of Jue. Basically, the sentinel, this immortal being who's there to protect, also has a resonator. So she's like, specifically the resonator, she resonates with the frequency of Jue. Okay? So we're supposed to meet with her. Her name is Jinshi. We love her. Very innocent. She's also the magistrate of Jinzhou, which is kind of like the mayor, I guess. Yeah, she's not there. We get greeted by her bodyguard, Shanhua. Shanhua can apparently only see in frequencies, and I completely forgot about that. But yeah, she sees normal people as like either frequencies or monsters. The sources were kind of fighting about that. The only people she can really see as people are Jinshi and us. Which, what might that say? Since Jinshi isn't in the city hall, we kind of just skedaddle and we go to a research center where, with a bunch of nonsense items we were given, and, you know, new kind of lore drop, this researcher Modify, this dude, also very small because he's even more relevant, isn't even from Huanglong. He's from this nation called the New Federation. So this was kind of the first mention of the New Federation. Super exciting, because at the point in time where I'm at right now, New Federation is kind of rumored to be the next nation to be released. So exciting stuff. Thanks, Modify. He will now never be mentioned again. After that, we get tested in a simulation, and somehow we are unable to leave. And this is where we meet this lovely lady. What does it mean? We will find out. Currently, the humans kind of had to leave the Northfall Barrens, which is like this upper area of Huanglong, because there's just too many hostile TDs who they've kind of been at war with since. The nearest military encampment is where we are headed now in the story. On the way we learn that we have the highest clearance possible, which would allow us to lead entire armies, which, you know, well, would be nice. Kind of jealous. But I guess if you are the one to establish the city, that's fair. Life outside the city appears to be pretty rough, but no matter, we got more lore to get through. So kind of a big jump, but I tried to keep this as comprehensive as I could. But next up, we meet Scar, this lovely gentleman right here. He is in the faction known as the Fractidus, whose goal it is to get everybody to be a resonator, which actually, you know, sounds kind of goated. Goated, you know, because Scar, he can turn into a goat. However, you know, there does seem to be more to them. And the girlies, they do kind of consider them to be a terrorist organization. So, yeah, maybe not that coded. Scar tells us that, you know, everybody wants a piece of us. Everybody knows we're hot. What else is new? And then comes the biggest Yap session anyone has ever encountered in any game. It was so long. People left my stream because they just didn't want to sit through all of that. I tried my hardest, but it was so much. It's the tale of the village we are currently standing in. We're like in some deserted language village up here somewhere. Who cares? We guess that the villagers killed each other upon looking at clues, and Scar then tells us the story of the evil shepherd that persuaded the villagers to kill each other, and a black lamb that tried to stop it but got blamed. Which he had cannons us and him. Then we fight, which gets broken up by our queen Rover. Woo! Or actually, it's got broken up by like Jinshi, I think, but Rover's there, and that's what's important, okay? I don't even see her as soon as she's on screen. I'm sorry, Jinshi. You're cool, but you're not Rover.
What the hell? What the hell? What the hell on?
There is so much more I could say about this village, but sadly, this is one of those moments where the actual writing contradicts each other a bunch, or contradicts itself a bunch. So I'm not even going to attempt it. Sorry. But kind of what I just said is the gist of it, okay? As we all know, as we all try to forget, sometimes the writing in 1.x was a little bit inconsistent. This is one of these times. Jesus Christ. Basically, what we also learned from this encounter is that everybody's kind of been following us. You know, this girl has been after us this whole time. She's also in love with us. That they met us when we fell down from the etheric sea was not a coincidence. It was all planned out. Jinshi, everybody knew we were coming. Everybody knew we were coming, and everybody wants us. Next up, we are going to the Grand Library. We are so special once more, since usually the library isn't really accessible because it's a huge database with information up to the ancient days, and I guess they love data protection in Solaris 3. Good for them. On our way there, we finally meet Jinshi, her, who was on a search for Joy. Because Joy is missing. Oh no. She thinks the Fraxidus are at fault for their disappearance and theorizes that their actual goal is to cause another lament, persuade us to join them, and resurrect the threnodian, the local threnodian, you know? You can kind of see its core up at the edge of the city, kind of metal stones. It looks really cool. Kind of different information than we got before about them wanting to turn everybody into a resonator, but what do I know? We lay a trap for Scar and actually manage to capture him. But you know how he is, our Yap King, so he's gotta get one more Yap out, and he shares that as soon as we know who we really are, we will come to the Fractus, no hesitation. Sounds intriguing. Remember that, like, everybody thinks we're hot, right? Yeah. Black Shores, obviously, is one of them, since we are their founder. I'm sure they've been floundering without us, because everybody seems to need us. Like, we are just everywhere, everybody needs us. That's our job. Yeah, we connect with them, get persuaded to help. This leads us then to an abandoned facility, because the Black Shores lament detection system is faulty in that area. We are then in this abandoned facility, right? And it's actually from those researchers known as the Court of Savante, who studied an ancient civilization and tried to recreate the divine being that we saw at the start of the game in that facility. That's kind of what we learned. I'm curious to know if they will ever pick that strand of lore back up. No time to ruminate over any of that, though, since we get called back to Jinzhou, which seems to be under attack. We've only been reawakened like 5 minutes ago, and everything just seems to be our problem. What were they doing before? Rover, she, her, oh yeah, is actually controlling the tacit discords in the area and trying to resurrect the threnodian. Slay. Literally, you know. Then we play as Jiyan for a bit, and you might be like, I cannot even see him. He was printed so small. Of course, that wasn't a mistake at all. It's because this whole sequence, honestly, is unimportant. And I'm sorry, Jiyan lovers. I love him too. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, it just slows the story down. I don't get it. He's there. We play as him. He's the military commander fighting on the front lines. And currently, they are struggling with retroact rain, which is, you know, rain that kind of rains upside down. Cool stuff. It causes hallucinations, which decreases casualties, which, of course, turns the hallucinations into reality. Because what else would it do? He fights with his former commander, Geshu Lin, who is kind of infamous, and disappeared. They fight, but oops, he turns out to be a hallucination. And that's kind of that, right? We never get some kind of closure on the Geshu Lin story, where he's gone, what he's up to, whatever. We just don't get that, so... And it's in the corner of shame. This is the corner of shame. No time for all of that. The threnodian is being resurrected as we speak. Okay. It is important. Why did we have to waste time on this little story? We don't know. It kind of reconstructs itself out of objects and whatever it can find. Then builds a barrier around itself so that we can let him, you know, revive in peace. But we got a little trick up our sleeve. Gigantic lasers, of course. So we blast that barrier and fight a manifestation of the threnodian. It's not really the threnodian, it's actually the dreamless, this one, the sexy lady. We fight the sexy lady, like, why is she so sexy, Kuro? Why? She's so sexy. And then we absorb her frequencies in the desperation of battle, right? And it gives us havoc powers, such, you know, Havoc Rover is born. Woo! Abby then makes her first actual appearance because it absorbs the blast of self-destruction caused by the defeat of the Dreamless. So, you know what it does? It eats. So, it eats those right up. It turns out they have been inside of us all along. Crazy. Let's speedrun through Mount Firmament next. Don't scream at me. I know there's like there's always a lot of stuff on the side that happens, but it's not important for the main story. I'm sorry, Chun-Li, because she's actually the one who leads us there, and she like makes a great sacrifice or whatever. But you can just kind of skip that and not miss out on anything. So I'm sorry, Chun-Li. That's why you're kind of here, next to the relevant baddies who I love. Right? There's other irrelevant baddies, but these are the relevant baddies that I love personally. Sorry. Every Sentinel got its own kind of powers, and Joey has got time powers. Joey got hurt and is thus unable to restore time. Mount Firmament suffers from a temporal anomaly. Local researchers theorized about the Resonator's second awakening, giving them even more power. So you get one awakening where you discover your resonance ability, and then there's a second awakening, even more power. There was a fight that was prophesied between Jinshi and Joey, where Jinshi got her second awakening and surpassed Joey, which is kind of crazy because actually Jinshi is kind of Joey's child, because Jinshi died as a child and then Joey used their time powers to revive her, thus endangering themselves. It was all this whole thing, but you know, they do fight, and Jinshi does get her second awakening, and the temporal anomaly is fixed. Yay! There's all this other stuff, great storytelling that happens on the side, but for the main story, it's more like Jinshi's story. So yeah, after that we visit the Black Shores and learn about all that stuff that I mentioned in the beginning. I kind of decided to tell it in a chronological order. All the stuff about the Tether system, the core, the Shorekeeper, all of that. We learn about all of that, about us being the founder. Camellia over here is actually also a member of the Black Shore. She was stalking us for a little, she loves doing it. We restore the core through means that are a little plot holy. I try to make sense of it. Maybe I'm just dumb, you know, could be the case. I don't think it's the case. Because the way we do it, we would have been able to do it before. So why did we need to take those 20 years? What was up with that? Anyway, Shorekeeper saves the day, and that's what's important. Right? That's what's important at the end of the day. We don't have to sacrifice here. Yippee! All right, and that is 1.x. It's mysterious, it's chaotic, and kind of just barely starting to make sense, right? I'm gonna summarize 2.x in the next video since I've already been here way too long. There's no more space on this board. While the writing was frustrating at times, I feel like the core beats and overarching themes really kind of slap more than one might think or might remember. However, as someone who joined the community when 2.x was already out, I will be real. I think WuWa really changed the game when it comes to storytelling with the newer updates. To find out why, feel free to subscribe and leave a like, since it motivates me to finish the next one even faster. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. Mwah.